Hey everybody, welcome back to EMS One News and Insider Analysis. Ed Bauter and Dan Schwester from the Overrun. How we doing, Danny?
God, Ed, I don't know. I thought we were doing okay, and I read the first story, and all right,
we are starting 2025 off with a bang here. This news story has been kind of popular in popular news. So a former Iowa medic has been charged with involuntary manslaughter after administering an incorrect drug. This paramedic, Deanna LaMare, was coming from Sioux City Fire Rescue, and they had this patient, James Foster. Essentially, they couldn't get James Foster onto the stretcher, and paramedic LaMare attempted to give ketamine to sedate this patient, IM, and after a few minutes, the paramedic realized that she did not give ketamine. She gave rocuronium, which is instead a paralytic. So this medication was given intramuscularly, and shortly after the medication was given, the patient stopped breathing. The patient expired in the hospital 2 days later. The biggest problem with this case, Danny, as with almost anything, is not so much the act as it was the cover-up. The paramedic in the case treated the patient as if it was a ketamine overdose and didn't take any action to, RSI the patient or treat them as anything other than the patient who had received rocuronium. So here we have a medication error, and this was discovered when the paramedic went back to the truck to get a second dose of ketamine, which could also be a warning symbol. A gram of ketamine is a lot to give. And notice the error, did not report the error. And here we have another case where we tried to cover up something and there was a really negative outcome, and now we have another lawsuit.
I thought about how I'm going to go around about dealing with this on this spot. And I thought about being funny, and I'm like, it's not funny. This is disgusting. I thought about being angry, and I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. We're not learning. We're doing the same things over and over again. We keep making these mistakes. And, you can talk about root cause analysis. You can talk about just culture. You can talk about medical errors and how we need to educate people from them. But if you're not going to at least read the damn vial, I don't know what we can do at this point.
Right.
This is a bad situation. First of all, we already know from the news and from spots we've done on EMS1 that these situations are fraught with danger. A person who is uncooperative at the scene, who's dangerous and disruptive, we decide they need to be medicated with ketamine to get rapid control of the patient. Okay, fine. In that extreme instance, I'm with you on this. But to just give a completely different medication, to make such a mistake that you have to go back and get another vial because you don't have enough medication, and then to not say, hey, I messed up. Hey, I have to protect this person, thinking it would just all go away. Like, what are we doing out there?
Yeah. And I think, you're right to talk about the just culture argument. I think that we do need to create cultures in which, providers feel safe making commentaries. I gave a wrong treatment,
Sure.
This is something that's going to be armchair quarterback for a long time, right? Because this is going to be kind of a seminal case. And we're going to keep having these conversations of how do you make the providers feel safe in reporting those errors? And also, how do you protect the providers? I feel like sometimes we miss protecting the patients in this context, which if you caused a med error and you've given a wrong medication, everything else kind of is dealt with downstream, right? Manage the patient, right? Their situation has materially changed, and now they have to be managed differently. The administrative stuff will come, right?
Mm-hmm.
100% of the time, everything comes out in the wash, but you have to be in an environment where you can report this type of problem without worrying about these kind of repercussions. I'm not taking away from the responsibility of the provider. You have to check all of your medications. We talk about the 6 R's, in EMT school. But this is another example of kind of a holistic failure that the provider caused a problem and was in an environment where they couldn't report the problem or didn't feel like they could report the problem, which led to a cover-up. This is a whole problem kind of from top to bottom. We talk about the Swiss cheese model a lot, but
I'm going to stop you right there.
Yeah, no, go on.
I'm going to stop you right there. This boils down to one thing. You need to own your actions as a clinician.
Yes.
And if you did something and you made a mistake, you better be speaking up and you better be doing something to make it right. And the fact that this did not happen for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. Your own integrity, we are trusted to do a lot of things. We have an enormous trust given to us by the people we serve. And if you're not going to stand up and own your mistakes, you have no place in this business. I'm sorry, business, service, whatever you want to call it. You're a clinician. If you're not going to own up and say, geez, I screwed up, I made a mistake. And a mistake, even a meta error, is not an end of career thing. Okay? Right. Yes, it's a mistake. But letting someone die because of your mistake, that's where the problem starts.
Yeah, that's something that has to be brought up. That has to be discussed.
You can't fix that. Yeah. You can't. Right. We can't.
Yeah, and that's right. Where you have to have accountability for what was done, and that's what I'm saying. I think that, you know, if in this type of situation, like a system has this patient has dynamically changed, we have to treat this patient now. We can kind of deal with everything downstream later on, right? And this is where we have the conversation of, you know, medicine is a practice. There are mistakes that are going to be made, but we have to be accountable to them. So, for EMS1 news and insider analysis, Ed Bauter, Dan Schwester from the Overrun. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and anywhere that you get your podcasts. We will talk to you next time.